Welcome back to another video here on the Lampy YGO channel, and today it's going to be about the current meta game. We are going to do a meta tier list so that you guys at home are prepared for Continentals that are just coming up. We will have the European Continentals next week, and then the weekend after it's also going to be North American Continentals. So we are analyzing the formats so you don't have to do that anymore. And when I'm saying we, that means I'm joined by the one and only Icentrix. He's not only a moderator of the channel but also an absolute mastermind in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! He topped YC's Dortmund and he came back this weekend to also top the German nationals in Dortmund. So I'm happy to have you with you, my friends. How are you feeling today?
Hello YouTube. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great, and I hope we can tell people which decks they should play or should not.
Absolutely, that is the plan for today. You can already see we have 4 categories in which we are putting the decks into. So right now everything is empty, but you can already see that we have a bunch of decks lined up. We've not included all of the decks because some decks we just don't think are going to be good enough to even have a shot at topping Euros or the Continentals in America. So we're only going to talk about the decks that you can see. And first of all, we have the all-time favorite, the deck that was again in the finals of German nationals, and that it was in so many finals over national season, and it's Kashtira, and that's also the deck you chose for German nationals. Do you think anything changes towards Continentals, towards Euros and NA Continentals? What would you think? It's probably a top meta contender, right?
Yeah, I have to be honest. I think most people don't like hearing this, but yeah, Kashtira is still one of the best decks, maybe even the best deck, the deck to beat in the format. Because even though Arisat went 2-1, Diablosis is banned now, the deck still has such a hard to out end board. I hear many people saying yeah, Kashtira is a free matchup for me because they are often winning against a right-side pass or so, but the deck is still super flexible, also with its non-engine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm also thinking. It's just, yes, you will have less consistent access to your one-card combo to Unicorn, but the combo is still as good as before, to be honest, because you just go a different route than the free zone lock or the 5 zone lock now because there's no Mind Taker anymore. But the options you still have are still very, very different. So you can go the one way or the other, and still both options are really, really good. And also, I think Tom Kleinreber, for example, took a very good approach with his list that he piloted into the finals of German nationals. Yeah. By including Small World. I think Small World really is a crucial card for the deck. It gives the deck back more consistency that it lost with the semi-limitation of Unicorn. So I think the deck is basically as good as before, to be honest.
I'll be honest with it. I don't know if Small World is the way to go, but what the build shows is the super flexible, the flexibility of the deck. One point, yeah, you're preparing for a standard Kashtira, and then there's one guy small worlding into Ibli, and you don't have a space for the out. Or at the other time, your opponent is going a Rysat with Shifter and then setting to Book of Moon. Yeah, and you're how should I play into that? Even though it doesn't look like a lot, it's in the end more than you think.
For sure. So it was one of the top contenders at German nationals and basically at every national that was being played. And I think it is going to be a top meta contender for Continentals as well. And that's where I'm putting it. So let's see whether it will be the number 1 in the end, because of course we are going to have more decks that we are putting into this category as we go, but that will be seen then. Next deck we have to talk about is Branded. And Branded always is so much fun to talk about because there's only 2 opinions on Branded. There's the one side that says Branded is the best deck, Branded for sure is a tier 1 contender, you can't change my mind. And the other, shoutouts to Galzo, and also shoutouts to Lukas Horstmann, who made top 8 with the deck at German Nationals, and was the only Branded player in Top Cut, to be fair. And then the other side of the bracket is just yeah, this deck is just way too inconsistent. It gets hurt way too much by very problematic cards like Ash Blossom and Dimensional Barrier. So yeah, it's basically only 2 sides of a story. And what is your take on it? What would you say?
So I would have preferred to let you go first, but no, I gotta get the elephant out of the room. To be honest, I don't think Branded is a top meta deck. We cannot ignore the performance it had at the last nationals, where only one topped in in Germany. So you could the same amount of Speedroid players topped, like the number of branded players,
And
which
that's
is
a
kind of
fact.
hilarious.
That's a fact.
That's a fact, yeah. And also, like, if you're taking a look in the spreadsheet, like in the Lampy White your spreadsheet, shoutouts to us there.
Shout outs to us. We will link it in the comments as well for sure.
Yeah, you can also see that like the branded decks also like I think in France it did top a lot, but I don't know if it really went like to top 4 or so. But it was definitely not in the finals. And yeah, and like the other nationals, I don't think it was like one of the biggest threats. And I never was really scared playing against branded because I knew like they won't go really far like XO. Sorry.
The thing is, honestly, so I mostly agree with you, but I personally always was pretty afraid of playing branded because like my overall picture of the format is that branded is not really good, and therefore I tended to disrespect branded in deck building and in theorizing. And for example, I very often just didn't main deck Ash because I didn't see its necessity when branded is just not that strong. And therefore I think overall it's not the best deck, but when you have to play it, it's kind of awkward because you couldn't really prepare for it that much.
The thing is, I gotta add a thing there because I would, even though it's not in order, I would next talk about Labyrinth. And Labyrinth, you saw like doing very well at German Nationals, and I think like the most consistent card against Labyrinth is probably Ash Blossom.
True.
As you probably know, also Ash Blossom is the most reliable card against Brand.
True. Yeah, that's true. So Ash Blossom maybe spiking in popularity again now for Continentals due to Labyrinth being so popular, and therefore again branded players also having to take the L. But so how do we put it into the tier list? Do we say it's challenger? Do we say it's high potential?
I would in fact like put it in into challenger. I think as one
Probably,
one of the best challenger decks, maybe place 1, 2, or 3, because I would say like it is like challenging decks like Kashtira or other decks we're putting there for a win.
Yeah.
But it is not the deck you are probably expecting to be the dominant deck.
I agree. That's a good spot. So you were already talking about Labyrinth. So sure, let's go over to Labyrinth.
We got to talk about it, and we also got to talk about the finals, I feel like.
For sure. So I think Labyrinth, honestly, once again, I don't know how this man does it, but Dinka Bui basically made a super interesting decision to not play the Furniture Labyrinth build. Because it felt like, before German Nationals, that the regular trap Labyrinth decks were disappearing completely. I almost didn't want to ask players when they topped whether they were playing Furniture Labyrinth or regular Labyrinth, because always the answer was Furniture Labyrinth. It was like really disappearing from it altogether, and now all of a sudden it won German Nationals, and I'm super interested to see how this is going to influence Euros now, or North American Continentals. Are people now just going to play regular Trapped Labyrinth again because Dinka Bui did so well? Or will there be like, hey, it was Dinka Bui, I still think it should be Furniture Labyrinth? What do you think?
So we saw a lot of Labyrinth players doing quite well at German Nationals. Also Jack Verma, I think, did like a very good job with the deck.
Yes.
Yeah, not sadly losing to Branded, but yeah, it sometimes happens. But I think he also was on the trap build.
Yeah, they played the same list, actually.
Okay. I did consider also playing like Labyrinth for German Nationals. And if you are like building the furniture build yourself now, and if you're like throwing all the hand traps from the last format into it, you're thinking like, yeah, throw that card in, but like it is not as good anymore. You're throwing the Droll in, and you're thinking like, yeah, now I don't have like an auto win button with Droll going second against decks. It is just like a hand trap, which like I heard people like even saying, if you're hand trapping me in Runic Twin Sprite with normal hand traps, you're hand looping yourself.
Kinda, and it's kind of true. I mean, I played the deck as well, and it is kind of true. Like, hand trapping Runic Legend Sprite just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and the Furniture Lab even lost their best hand trap with Gamma.
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
they might still be playing if they are playing Furnitures, because you can discard the driver, but you are not as feared to like Ash Welcome Labyrinth if there is no monster on the field anymore.
Yeah,
And I think that's the reason people went back to traps, and also still floodgates. Even though no one really loves them, they are still pretty powerful.
they are indeed.
Yeah, a card like Gozen in the format against like Kashtira, or if you're like Gozening on summon of Hugin, your opponent needs to hard draw either tip or destruction.
For sure. And to once again quote our new German national champion, Dinka Bui, he did not want to lose to a Rysart pass. And Furniture Labyrinth kind of tends to do that because you can't activate the furniture pieces in hand when there's a Rysart on the field. And therefore, it is probably a smart move to just don't play the furniture cards and to play a more consistent trap approach of a deck. And I mean, we have seen it plenty that Labyrinth decks can just go second and just still win. Normally for a trap deck, back in the day, that seemed impossible. But nowadays, Labyrinth going second is scary, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and I agree with that, like with the furniture thing, because I played against a Labyrinth in round 9, which I won with a lot of luck, to be honest. But game 2, like, he had to use his furniture. I mean, he hand trapped me twice and then had to use his furniture right when I had 3 monsters on the board, because it was kind of obvious I'm going for a Rysart.
Yeah.
And then you're setting like a trap, and like the Kashtira play can just banish it in the end phase, and your opponent is like has wasted 2 cards effectively.
In total, it would be 4 cards then, because he like also used 2 hand cards and everything. So it's like it feels like from the beginning I always felt that the furniture cards are such a commitment, right? It's so great if you can recover them for free from the graveyard, but actually activating them for the first time, discarding additional cards just feels really rough.
Yeah, and as I said, if you're like filling your deck up, you're like feeling like, yeah, this hand trap is not good, that hand trap is not good. I'm just like putting in good normal traps, and then why are you even playing with furniture build when you can play more powerful traps? Like we saw, like for winning deck playing Solemn Strike as example, a good card this format.
For sure, for sure. So let's now come to the end with the talk about Labyrinth, and we have to seal it with putting it into a spot. So I think we probably agree on it being a top meta contender, right?
Yeah. The only reason I would discuss about putting it into Challenger is that not a lot people are doing very well with the deck. So you are not likely to face, I think, 4 Labyrinths in the tournament, but you will see some at the top tables.
I mean, it's crazy, right? When you look at the top cut of German nationals, the people that brought Labyrinth were Dinka Bui, Jack Verma, Jonas Koschel, and I think one more, which wasn't that popular of a name. I think we had him in the featured match. It was Hannes or something. But it's like still like the players are outstanding. So maybe this is another case of it being the player and not really the deck. That could be. To me personally, it just still feels like a very strong deck, and I want to put it into the top meta category pretty certainly. Especially after the success at German nationals, that might also be kind of a bad thing for it to happen too, though, right? Because now people might be over preparing for Labyrinth, so it cannot really do anything in the following tournaments because everyone is siding backer removal and ashes and everything. But for now, just saying I want to have it in top meta, and I think I want to have it behind Kashtira. Do you agree?
I do agree, yeah, because I'm really curious how good the Trap Labyrinth build will do into card like Evenly.
Yes.
I'm very interested in that.
Okay, so a lot of talks about Labyrinth. Let us know in the comments whether you like those in-depth talks about it or whether you want it to be a little bit quicker. This is the first time that Icentrix and I are doing this together, and hopefully not the last time, but definitely make sure to give us some feedback. Also, leave a like to the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys know the drill. Next deck is a fan favorite again, and it is Flowanda Reese.
I will vote for directly putting it to Rogue.
Oh, the Flowanda Reese hate. Do you really think so? I mean, it's nothing really happened to the deck, and it didn't really have huge success over the last couple. The thing is, it's not good into Kashtira. I think it depends on the answers to how good is Flowanda Reese into Runic decks, and I think the answer is awful. Like that's at least what I'm thinking, because like
it's horrible. I think
Destruction and Freezing Curses are just so good versus Flu
Yeah.
That's, I feel like, and that should be, I think the runic decks, even though they did end up not even being in top 4 of German nationals, it felt like the pro players' call, right? A lot of players rare on
Yeah.
Runic Life Prince Pride, so it seemed like the hidden best deck, even though it did not turn out to be the best deck of the event, in fact. But it is definitely a deck you have to prepare for. And I don't think you're preparing very well for that matchup by picking Floan de Ries. I gotta agree.
But the things I don't want to waste too much time on the deck, but
Yeah.
I think like the deck has clear problems this format with like cards like Rysart or Runic cards like banishing. I mean, Runic is not that big of a deal because they banish face up, but Rysart like banishing the one of Tuca, one of big monsters. Is like a problem, and if you're like just saying end of main phase, they got a shotgun the trap, otherwise they get even lead, and your talents is apparently live.
Yeah, so please note, everyone, that we haven't included like all the decks. Of course, there are worse decks than Floan de Ries at the moment, but out of the decks that we have picked here for our analysis, it's a rogue deck, and that's where I'm going to put it now. Next deck up the list is a deck that has topped German nationals, and it is Manadium, however you want to call it. There was one person, shoutouts to Kian, topping with the deck, but immediately going out in top 32. And I think overall, when you look at all the other nationals since the release of Cyberstorm Axis, the deck was not very successful. It did not really have a whole lot of top cut spots, and it was more of a surprise to see it topping now German nationals, to be honest. And like, if I would have to initially say a category for this, I would probably also put it into Rogue, gotta be honest.
I got to slightly disagree, probably.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I would think about putting it into the high potential category, just because of the reason. If I remember correctly, we have like a double top cut in the European Championship, meaning we will likely play top 128.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And so, like, a deck like Manadium, which does have, I think, a few consistency problems, if you would like to call them like this, so it can get unlucky in some matchups, I'd say. It does, like, kind of compensate in the nationals, in the European Championship format, because it can, like, lose one more time in Swiss.
Fair.
I think, like, a deck with this high of, like, a potential end board and stuff can just like quickly go quite far in the tournament. And I do believe like all those super crazy synchro strats, you have some room to innovate on them.
True. Okay, so
I
yeah,
don't know if it's enough.
We are basically true. We don't really have like a synchro deck we are talking about. So this is basically our time to talk about synchro decks in general, because Assault Synchron, this is like one of the very few cards that is like changing the format from nationals to now continentals, because actually today on the 22nd of June the new Battle of Legends set has released. So we now have Assault Synchron. So this might be a card boosting synchro strategies. And so, like, yeah, okay, I'm down to put it into high potential, because I cannot really foresee how much of an impact those synchro decks are going to have. And I want to personally see some synchro decks go crazy at Continentals. I agree.
And there's one reason why I would put this in high potential, and a deck like we might talk about next quickly, Swordsoul, which I would put in Rogue instead. Manadium has like multiple extra deck mechanics, so they are not losing to people citing deep area.
Yes.
The board wiping potential of a card like Vicious Astrolaut cannot be like ignored. They have like some ways to break the board a bit better, and they are not as linear as like Swordsoul, where everyone knows what's coming next.
Honestly, it kind of hurts a little bit to me to put Swordsoul into the Rogue category, but I've been also saying that for a very long time, that I don't know how this deck had such consistent success, even though everyone knew what it was doing, and in my personal opinion, it wasn't doing anything crazy. Yes, it was doing consistent stuff, but it was nothing crazy that deck was ever doing, and still it was like topping here and there and everywhere. And therefore, I never really understood why it was so high in popularity. I mean, of course, it's also accessible, so I definitely understand why people are picking up the deck, because it's cheap. But I just don't think it's great, and I think I really want to put it into Rogue as well. A lot of people have always put it higher, but I also think it's Rogue. But I personally want to put it in front of the Floan de Ries deck, right?
That's okay with me. Yeah. And to be clear, like I think it's even likely that decks from the rogue category will top European
Sure.
Championship just because of like the sheer amount of deck topping. But they are not like my number one concern in the format.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we have only picked decks to talk about here that we can see in the top cut of Continentals, right? Everything else was already pre-sorted out, and now we are only talking about the decks that we can theoretically see in top cut. So,
Yeah, sorry to all Dark Magician players.
yes, I hate to break it. Blue Eyes will probably not appear in the top cut either. But maybe we are going to make Joshua Schmidt proud and see some see some beautiful Mavmec cards in the top cut. What do you think? Mavmec also didn't top German nationals, but it, for example, topped in Denmark the week before. So there is definitely still a consistent way to play Mavmec. The problem is just, is the power level of Mavmec high enough to still compete in the current meta? Is it strong enough to compete versus Kashira, versus Labyrinth? What do you think?
To be fair, we cannot ignore that Mavmec just got support today, which a lot of people maybe didn't even realize because they were like, yeah, Circle is at 1, like just don't play the deck anymore. It's good. It's okay.
Yeah.
The deck is dead. But we got like I think it's called Linked Decoder.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah.
A card we were missing in the OCG, which, if I remember correctly, should serve as being able to like go Heat Soul into Dark Fluid.
I just have them
like
right here.
Terahertz.
Yeah,
I think there is a one card line for this. So Mavmec got a lot more end board potential now with the Link Decoder.
Wait, this card is crazy. I just read it for the first time. This card is actually crazy.
Yeah, the card is good. The card is good. But I still don't believe Mavmec will be top meta deck now with Link Decoder. But we should not ignore it. And so I believe one or two Mavmec might top, but I still would put it into Rogue. But maybe above both decks on Rogue right now.
I think I kind of, with that card being around, and also I followed, of course, German Nationals top tables, and there were a couple of Mavmec players bubbling the event. I even want to put it into high potential, because after we like the synchro strategies around Manadium, we were like high potential because we can't really foresee how much of an impact the assault synchro and so on going to have. And same thing with Mavmec. I think this card can really push Mavmec, and we can't really tell yet, but I kind of want to put it in at the end of high potential. And I mean, it's close between end of high potential and beginning of Rogue, right? So I think you can agree on that.
I can agree on that.
Okay.
It is okay with me. But I don't want like to like all Mavmec players go like crazy because they got Link Decoder. No, they should still remember that there is a card called Bestial Magnamute, which is like an FTK for Mavmec.
True. Bestials, honestly, Bestials weren't that popular at German Nationals. I expected them to be more popular, but because, especially versus Labyrinth as well, they are like really decent. And honestly, when I think about Furniture Labyrinth at the moment, I would probably just 100% play Bestials, because we were talking about it earlier, but all the hand traps we played in Furniture Labyrinth in the last format are not that strong now anymore, because maining Droll, maining Nibiru, all those calls are like kind of weirdish. But I think maining Bestials could be the way to go, to be honest.
I do think so too. Yeah, I do think so too. And that's the reason I think Mavmec has a few problems, but they got more endboard potential, so
yeah. High potential is fine. So, next deck that has a lot of big endboard potential is, of course, the Dinosaur strategy. And we had a beautiful... I don't know, did you see it? Did you rewatch the Dinosaur featured match we had at German Nationals? It was crazy.
I sadly did not, because I had my own Dinosaur matchup in round 3. He did some crazy stuff. To be fair, he hard drew 2 times Misk.
Yeah.
Which makes the deck a lot better if you're hard draw Misk.
For sure.
But he also played the new cards, and I'll have to be honest with you, Ground Xena, I think it's called, is a scary card.
It's kind of busted for sure. Like,
yeah.
I did a winners interview with Strafko, who was our Dino player who won in the featured match, and he basically said Ground Xeno is a way to still do your full regular combo after you got ashed. So we said earlier, Ash is everywhere, and if Dino players now have a way to play through Ash, it's kind of ridiculous and kind of good. And I think Dinos, since their release, were always a good going second strategy as well, just by nature, because Tyranno goes brr, goes second. So I don't know. Like I like dinos, and I kind of I'm already hating myself for it, but I kind of want to put dinos into high potential, to be honest.
I'll be honest with you. I would agree. I don't think like it's a deck I would probably pick because I think it's super good. But I think like I could see me playing this deck because I think like I might have the edge because people don't know how to interrupt now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because like as you said, like if you're like going for the Oviraptor at Misk, effect Misk, and then trying to special summon Archosaur, and your opponent just ashes it because this was always the right play in the last time. And then he just goes Ground Xenon, search like the new Xenosaur, and destroying a baby in his hand, he goes like full combo.
Yeah, exactly. It's just still possible. So I think Dino might be a sleeper pick. I even want to place it in front of Mathmech. So
I would put it in front of Mathmech, yeah. Because I don't see a lot of hope for Mathmech.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it might be the secret technique for Continentals to just play a big combo deck. Like, play a Synchro combo deck, play Dinos as a combo deck, and when everyone is just on Evenly and you have a field of multiple Omni Negates, guess what? Evenly is not going to do anything. So I really, really like Dinos. I think they have some high potential. And yeah, that's cool. So next up, we have another combo deck, and that's Gold Pride Punk.
Yeah.
That deck did not really perform that well at German Nationals, but I think it's still a pretty good contender. I mean, I'm a bit biased. You guys know I love the Punk strategy. I played pure Punk back and forth, but I think it's actually a good strategy. I think it's actually a good meta call because it has some cool tools versus Kashtira specifically, which right now is our top contender of the meta because you can just give them a token which they can do nothing about. So
yeah,
I kind of like it.
I'll have to slightly disagree with you there. The deck is a fan favorite, and we should not ignore that the Punk cards just got reprinted.
Yes.
So people do have a lot easier access to them. It is so much easier to afford Punk cards now because like the core is what, $20?
Yes.
And so people only have to afford like the Gold Pride cards, which are a bit more expensive now, but they are not like super expensive that you cannot afford them. Like a card like Prosperity, many people think is just too expensive. And so we might see a lot more Gold Pride Punk players there. And I'll tell you, the token thing is kind of cool against Kashtira. They might struggle against it a bit, but I think you don't always have like the what's it called? The level 8, like which generates
Nitro
you might
right?
not always
Nitro Head.
Yeah, you're right. Nitro Head. A good card to sneak, to be honest. But the thing is, the deck also has a card like Psychic End Punisher, which can be super dangerous for some decks. The card has one problem, which is called Scarecrow Kashtira.
True.
Yeah.
Wait, can you just negate Psychic End Punisher with Scarecrow Kashtira?
Yeah, because it's just unaffected by activated effects.
Oh boy.
The thing is, like, if they are like at one point getting to their end Punisher and just waiting on you against a deck like I think Branded has some, or is Branded ruled with the Mirror Jade that it's like just resolve. I don't know, to be honest, but let's say End Punisher is not a card that is unoutable
in
right
this format.
now.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still a good tool. And the problem of Punk is I heard I played against two Punk decks, one being Kashtira Punk, one being Gold Pride Punk at German Nationals, and they just said like they always get FTK'd on the fusion.
Yeah. Ash on Fusion is nice, and people have realized that by now. In the beginning, I also had that experience. Yeah, they were always like ashing the Armin or something, and I'm like, yeah, this ends my turn 5% of the time, and the other 95% of the time, I'm super happy about it because I know there can't be Ash Blossom on the Fusion anymore.
Yeah, and let's not forget like the interaction of Foxy Tune and Shifter. Because if you're throwing your Foxy Tune and your opponent change Shifter, you are still discarding, so you're effectively hand-looping yourself for 2.
Yeah, true. Also, we got some additional information from chat. Actually, Mirror Jade's end phase effect to destroy is a way to out Psychic End Punisher as well, because that doesn't activate.
which is a big problem.
Yeah, that is definitely a big problem. So I think with all those contrasts, there's no way we put this deck above Rogue, right?
Yeah, and probably when I might see myself putting it at the top of Rogue because we have
Yes.
two more linear decks, and this is a bit more non-linear. But
Yeah, I like it. So next up is a deck I was very surprised to see topping at the German National, and it's Pearly. Do you think, first of all, there is a way to play Go First Pearly right now successfully?
no.
Okay, short answer. I like it.
Your deck is just not too consistently doing something, and people telling me like, yeah, but you can still go into another XYZ, which is not plump, but yeah, that's just not good.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
just
problem.
doesn't do it now. That's the thing. Yeah, so going second Pearly, certainly the way, also the way that Jonte chose to top at German Nationals. The thing with this deck is, honestly, those blind going second strategies, to me, just have such a big disadvantage because
Yeah.
those big tournaments are always going to be very well scouted, because if you have a friend that is still in competition at one of those big tournaments, you are working for your friend. So you will have your friends group scouting all the top tables. So basically, the chances that your opponent already knows what you are playing in like the later rounds of Swiss and in Top Cut for sure is very high. So then playing a blind going second deck that does very little going first seems to be such a big risk, because they might just win the die roll and let you go first, and that is not that great, not that fun.
I mean, I think the deck is, if you let them go first, it's still okay-ish, kind of, because you can sometimes set up a plump or so, but still, it's just not good enough. I think it's just
Agreed.
for me, it's clearly a rogue deck right now. I don't know if a new support is like, which is coming, I think, even after like the World Championship.
Yeah.
We don't really need to take that into account.
Absolutely
But
not.
I think still like you can play this deck. You can maybe like even top with it, but as you saw in Germany. But I don't believe it's like more than Rogue, and maybe even behind Flunder.
I think I want to put it in at the top of Rogue, because all the other decks did not top German Nationals that we have in Rogue so far, and Pearly at least did manage to top German Nationals, and therefore just by the data I want to put it onto the top of Rogue, but I also cannot see it in any other category than Rogue. Agreed. The next deck, honestly, is super interesting, because I remember, together with you guys live on stream in chat, talking about Rika, and I think the last time we did some kind of a metagame breakdown, I even wanted to put Rika into top tier, into top meta, and then chat was holding me back and was like, no, it's not top meta just yet. But now look at German Nationals. We had one Rika in top 4 and another Rika in top 8. So this deck performed amazingly well. What do you think about Rika, my friend?
So Rika did very well at German
Yes.
Nationals, and we should not forget, like, we didn't have a lot of British players.
True.
And in Europe, there will be a lot more British players. So the deck will by nature likely be more represented
sure.
in the top players from top players.
Yes.
So
Shout out to Jessica Robinson, maybe topping Euros with the deck
Yeah.
again.
yeah, big shout outs there. I don't know. I don't know if I would put it into the top meta category, just by the fact that I don't think you're likely seeing many of them.
True.
Because there are very few good Rika players out there. I mean, there are more good Rika players out there than I might think, but just like the pure mass of players is not on Rika, I feel like.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more likely to
definitely.
play Kishira Branded or so. And that's why I might put it into Challenger. Maybe even above Branded, so as the top deck of the Challenger category. Because I
that.
do feel like it still can struggle versus Runic decks. And I don't know how good the Labyrinth matchup is.
That's the thing. And once again, this might be a Dinka Bui thing, but I asked him about Rika, and he was like, Rika is the freest matchup ever. I only need Big Welcome Labyrinth and regular Welcome Labyrinth to out the entire full combo Rika board. So I was like, okay, seems like the Labyrinth matchup is not that great for Rika. So, and in general, I think by nature, since its release, it never had a great matchup into back row. Like, Rika isn't a deck that plays very well into back row. We also, I think, saw that in the featured match. It just doesn't do very well into it. So I think this is like kind of a gatekeeper for the deck, that they don't really have a way to play through back row. Maybe if they get like a new Rika monster, which just says you can destroy a back row once per turn or something like that, it might be interesting, which you can just special summon out at some point. That might be cool, but for the moment, I think top of Challenger is probably the accurate place to put it into.
So I think the deck got like a new field spell searcher in the last set, Battles of Legend, which is, let me quickly look it up, Catcorn or so I think it's called.
Okay.
Cattycorn.
Cattycorn. Oh, it's a monster, right?
It's a monster, yeah. I do not believe it's like pushing the deck to beyond its limits. But yeah, I think it is support, but it is not breaking the deck.
There she is, Cattycorn.
I think it's good place in the top spot of a challenger. I think it was. I saw the feature match of I think Dinka Bui played against Ricker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I saw him flipping like the Ghost match, and his opponent like still starting to combo into it with like the with his Sun Vine spell.
Yeah. Sewing.
But then he just wasn't able to go into anything of his like other engine cards, like or his techs in the extra deck, because they are all not Earth.
Yeah.
Apparently,
it seemed like he was really trying to pull something off still, and Dinkabui was sitting there completely chilling, not even flipping his skill drain. He was like, bro, whatever you're trying to do there, we both know it's not going to be good.
Yeah, and I think like we are not seeing a lot of rivalries right now, because like Kashtira doesn't really care, like Labyrinth doesn't care, Rika doesn't really care. So and Runic decks have like the inbuilt out with destruction, and so like that is not even a point that you could say like, yeah, all the Mavmec players are citing rivalry and I don't care, but yeah, no one is citing rivalry.
Yeah, okay. So definitely top of Challenger. Next up, we have the Runic decks, and I think we should first off start with the more popular deck. We should first off talk about the Live-Turn Runic Sprite deck, and to me, it was a bit... The deck was a bit of a disappointment because it did not really run that deep in this tournament. I expected it to be the best deck, but it ended up not winning the tournament. And I think this deck really struggles when everybody in the field knows what it does. So, for example, like people have figured out solutions to this now. The craziest solution I saw this weekend was actually in the deck of Dinkabui. So he was really prepared for this matchup, because he actually just ran freaking super polymerization into Almaduke. And Almaduke just fusions away IP and both of the good old links of the Evil Twins. So that's crazy. You just end out the entire board with one super poly, and you can then even run over the red or carrot and so on. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I thought like about how to super poly the deck, and I'm very sad I didn't come up with Almaduke.
Yes.
I don't know how I did not come up with that, because I even know the card. but anyways. Yeah, definitely a good decision. Like the deck is much more well known by now, so the deck does lose a lot of its strength. And I think like also shout outs to the three guys I traveled with, Tim, Aster, and Marvin, who played the deck.
Yeah.
Should have played Kashtira, but it's okay. And I do believe also a problem of the deck is the mirror match, which is not like the best mirror match you can have.
True.
Because mirrors are like, you're snowballing quite a lot. And yeah, so I think that's also a problem for the deck. Like if two good players are facing each other with Runic, the chance of you outplaying your opponent is a lot less than in other mirror matches.
For sure.
And I would still put it in the top meta category for sure.
Absolutely. No discussion. I think it definitely deserves to be there. But before the event, I would have clearly put it in front of Kashtira. But for me personally, it's definitely behind Kashtira now. And I'm even considering to put it behind Labyrinth, to be honest.
I'll be honest with you. I think we can put it behind Labyrinth just because of the fact, like the deck not going super deep into finals and so by now.
Yeah, I like it. I
And
like
so
it.
I would put it in the third slot probably because as I
Definitely
said.
still a top contender. Now, next up, we go for the next Runic deck. And actually, it was only one player. Of course, we all know him. It was Joshua Schmidt topping with the Runic for Higher Sprite variant. And I'm, to be fair, not the biggest fan of the deck. Let me quickly tell you why. I think by now people have realized what it does too much. And if they just interrupt you on the for hire part of deck, you are only playing like Runic Sprite with very little Sprite cards. And that just doesn't feel very strong. And therefore, I just don't think it's going to be the craziest ever. Of course, if you pull off the draw 6, it's amazing. It's the best feeling in Yu-Gi-Oh! Drawing more cards when you're opening hand. But I think there are too many choke points. And I just don't think it feels like really good. And I mean, most of you have seen the deck profile of Joshua Schmidt. And of course, he is a great deck builder and everything. But he just, for example, I think he played Mayhem, which, yes, is an additional way to play. But also it's like an additional brick to draw in some way, isn't it? Like, it's not
I don't think it's really a brick. I don't think it's really a brick.
Okay, fair enough.
But it has like I think the fewest non-engine probably.
Yes,
because
sure.
from what I remember, the deck often is even built with just 15 runics, which is the pure minimum.
Yeah.
And still has less non-engine slots than Runic Twin Sprite.
For sure.
A fact we cannot ignore is that we had 3 very genius players topping with it, who are like Dinkabui in London, of course.
Yes.
Gabriel Sissi in France, and like as you already said, Joshua Schmidt. So the deck gotta have something going forward for it, but sure. I don't think we can really put it higher than Challenger.
I agree. I don't think it's a top meta contender. I think in the last breakdown we made, we wanted to put it into top meta, but I just don't see it either. I think we can make it. I kind of even want to put it behind Rika, to be honest.
I could see that because Rika has some different things going for it. I would definitely put it in front of branded, but maybe that's just me and my anti-branded strategy.
Which is very popular, though. Not gonna lie.
But yeah, I think it's placed well there. But you could like also discuss it being the top challenger because it is quite similar to the Runic Twin deck.
True. I agree. Okay, but for now we will leave it there. And next up we have the Scareclaw deck, the Ehren deck, and this was not topping at all at German National. In the beginning, when Top Card was starting, there were some rumors that there actually is a Scareclaw player in Top Card. But it was just a couple of Scareclaw cards in the Monadium deck. So that was the Monadium deck that turned out to be one of our top 32 decks. And therefore, Scareclaw didn't win at all. I think I talked to some really good players. I know it now. I remember it. Dinkabui, I think, lost to go second Scareclaw in Swiss.
You're right.
I'm not kidding.
Right.
I'm not kidding. It was him losing to that. I mean, I think he only lost 1 match in total in the entire tournament. And that was to Scareclaw. That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it is. We cannot put this deck higher than Rogue, let's be honest.
Thanks, yeah.
But I want to say, sorry, Aaron, at first. But I also got to say 1 or 2 good things for the deck. So, first of all, it's not as easy to route out tryhard as you think.
Yeah.
Just because of the pure fact your like Scareclaw play is not as easy as example the how's it called, the End Punisher.
Yeah.
Because you are losing the Scareclaw cache, to be honest. Because you often gotta crash it because it has less depth than Triad Attack. And the deck has a lot of OTK potential. And going for it is the Twin Saw, which is a good card against the Runic Twin deck, especially because you can pop 2 cards, which can be both the twins, which makes their plays a lot weaker. So, and you can also pop like some other cards, of course. But and yeah, like we shouldn't forget the second effect of twins, or making them unable to use link effects, which is also very, very strong.
Yeah.
But there is a big but. The deck is quite linear. It is lacking some power potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just Book of Moon sometimes on a normal summon, or way too often.
Yeah.
Like, if you stop the deck very early, it's very unlikely to play very far. That's what I'm...
Yeah.
Like, compared to decks like Runic, Lightning Sprite, that can just play through stuff so easily, it just feels way, way too linear. And definitely deserves to be in Rogue, and I will put it behind Pearly, if that's fine with you.
And I would put it a bit more down. Sorry.
Okay. Let's put it behind Sword Soul, man. Let's put it behind Sword Soul.
I would put it behind Sword Soul. Yeah, I would even see people like preferring to play Flunder than this deck. But
okay, we're going all the way down. We're going all the way down.
I could also put it in. I mean, it's like at a level with Flunder, I'd say, just like from representation. So
you are responsible for this now. You are responsible for it being at the end.
I want to say like why I would do this is because the deck has a lot of problems with its deck getting ripped apart. So like one right side effect, if you're playing like the deck as example with a adventurer package, you are very fragile to your deck getting ripped apart. And if your runic opponent resolves 2 runic spells, which are banishing cards from top of your deck, you often have 0 grind. You have less grind than like pure Sprite, I think. Yeah. Because like then sometimes your feat spell gets banished. Your your adventurer cards, one-offs can get banished, and this just hurts so much.
Absolutely, I do agree. And some people in chat already wanted to put me Sky Striker, which is our next deck on the list, right next to it. And honestly, I could talk about Sky Striker for hours because it is my deck, my favorite deck of all time. But I think I'm going to make it short. I have to agree. I think Striker is only playable as a blind second deck right now. And we talk about Pearly as a blind second deck being not very great because it's kind of rough to play a Go second deck right now. And therefore, it hurts, but I will put Striker behind Flu. Do you agree?
Put Striker at the pure bottom. It is worse than Scarecrow by a mile. From what I see, I think you can. Probably you should put Scarecrow in front of Sword Soul. From what I see now, just because of the fact you can probably do something with Brave. I did forget that.
Nah, it's fine like that. It's fine.
Okay. I respect that. But Sky Striker is unplayable. I'm sorry for everyone who liked playing 2019. I did like TOS format as well. But your deck is not what it was. And don't tell me you got linkage and can OTK. No, this will never come up. I did never see anyone going like uninterrupted into a full board with Sky Striker cards and OTK with linkage.
Doesn't really happen that much, that's true. So next up we have the Sprite variants, and we start off with the Lifeprint Sprite without the runic cards. We actually had one player topping, and I honestly, I don't even find a singular reason to not play the runic cards in this deck. And I watched his deck profile. And did you see it? Do you know his reasoning for it?
I do not.
His reasoning was, it was too complex, I couldn't make it up with the runic cards. So he basically just said, yeah, probably would have been better, but I didn't have the time to prepare, so I just played it without. So like, no way I'm playing the regular build without the runics over the runic build. And now the question is just, where do we put it? It's definitely behind the Lifetime Runic Sprite deck, but is it a challenger?
So I gotta say something a lot of people will not like to hear.
Okay.
But if your deck is Twin Sprite, you have no reason to play your deck like it is. There is legit no reason. The runic cards are just too good with this. And so why are you not playing them? And I'm sorry, like, for this meta discussion, the price of runic cards is not an argument for me. And I would throw this card directly in the top of Rogue. Because I don't see a lot of potential in it. So so I wouldn't say like all the cards in high potential are better than the cards all the decks in high potential are better than the decks in Rogue.
Yeah, but at least there is some potential that we cannot foresee, right?
Yeah. There is some innovation possible in these decks, and I don't see a lot of innovation in the Twin Sprite deck because all the innovation you can do in it is just better in the Melfi Sprite deck.
Yeah, I like that. Honestly, I like that call. Like power level wise, it might not be that bad, but as you said, and as even the person that topped German nationals with it said, there's just no reason to not go the additional way of adding runics to the deck. So that's what you get for not playing the runics in this deck. Rogue category it is. And
you
next
can
up,
play it. You can play this deck. It is
sure,
not
you
as
can.
bad.
Yeah.
But
It's
remember,
not as great either, though. Not as great.
Yeah. Remember, you're playing a worse version of the top meta deck.
Exactly. So next up, and you are already teasing it a bit, is Melfi Sprite. Do you think there is some innovation to be had with Melfi Sprite?
The thing is, I think you can innovate on this deck. I think you gotta put it into the challenger category to get it out.
Yeah.
I got demolished by FAM on this deck, so I also cannot put it much lower. The deck is quite good. The deck does still lack a bit of grind game from what I remember, and I think you cannot really like compensate that. But just the amount of non-engine you can play in this deck together with the OTK potential it has is insane.
For sure, yeah. This may be like the best. I think this is like the deck that can balance it the best between being a solid go first deck that sets up a reasonable board and having like really good go second OTK lines. Because a lot of decks in the format have like one of the two, like a really good way to OTK going second or a really strong going first field. But this deck has like both of it. It's cool with this deck for sure.
And it does not really lose to Shifter. So it does lose a few of its lines with Anglos. So I would still say that Shifter is a card which is okay against the Sprite Melfi deck, but it is not as strong as against the other decks, which is a big plus for it. You can OTK under Shifter with the Gamma Burst.
Yeah. I don't think Shifter is doing too much versus this.
And I think we could even put it above the Runic Furhire deck.
Ooh, really?
Just because of the reason, if you're playing Runic Furhire, you gotta ask yourself if you prefer the Life Twin build, while there is not really something comparable to Sprite Melfi.
True, so I like that. So we basically say Runic Life Twin Sprite is better than Runic Furhire Sprite, and therefore we downgraded, and also Melfi Sprite is better than the regular Life Twin Sprite. Yeah, okay, I can see that, and also. We cannot forget about French Nationals, because those were also played in the new format already. And in French Nationals, Melfi Sprite was everywhere. So this deck definitely is a factor. It was not very well represented in Germany, but I think Germany also was a lot of the people in Germany actually initially built the Life and Runic Sprite deck. So by nature, we had a lot of representation for that deck at German Nationals. But when you looked at French Nationals, this deck was very, 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 very strong in Top Cut. And therefore, I think it's definitely a contender for Continentals too, for sure.
Yeah, one thing I gotta add for everyone wondering why I said a deck like Runic, not Runic, like Life Twin Sprite is in the Rogue category, because it has like a similar deck, which is just better. And then now I'm saying like the same for like Life Twin Sprite and Furhire. I think the difference between those two decks is like the Furhire cards give the deck another way to play against some stuff. Like against Biz Shields, it's better than the Life Twin deck. Also, like you have like different interruptions and like draw power. So that's the reason why those are a bit less comparable than like Life Twin Sprite and Runic Twin Sprite.
Yeah, for sure. So next up the list, we have the good old Dragon Link, and with Dragon Link in not only top 8 of German Nationals, but also in the finals of French Nationals. So even though not a whole lot of people topped with the deck initially, both of them that topped with the deck went very deep into the tournament. And therefore, I don't really know what to do with the deck, because overall representation, overall power level, it seems mediocre, because not very many are playing it successfully, but the people that play it actually made it work. And I think that if I can already start off, I think the matchup for this deck versus Kashtira just seems really bad, doesn't it?
I heard like the one like topping with the deck known as Professor Sunrise on YouTube, by the way.
Shoutouts. Absolutely.
He also said he just wanted to dodge Kashtira in top 32, and then he doesn't care. He wanted to get top 16, and if he then plays versus Kashtira and loses, it is what it is. He did win. He did win, to be fair, against Kashtira.
Yeah.
So congrats on that. But still, I don't think like that's a sign the deck is a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a very bad strategy to just pray to not play the best deck in the room consistently. Like you go into a tournament bringing a deck that just struggles super hard versus the best deck in the room, so that just doesn't feel like a good call. I don't even know whether I want to put it into Challenger, to be honest. I'm struggling with that.
Yeah.
I'm
I
actually struggling.
I would likely put it in the last spot of Challenger. You
Probably.
could discuss it being high potential because the deck can probably cook something with the Assault Synchron
Yeah.
who came out, because this is the one deck which can very regularly go into the line of summoning Dissipator, tributing it with Lubellion, and then getting the Dissipator back with Assault Synchron.
Yeah, yeah.
So it can probably do something like that. But it's not as easy. It's not as easy as you throw 3 Assault in and your deck is just like by a mile better.
Yeah, and the question will be whether people come up with a good deck, including Assault Synchron, quickly enough, because it's only 2 weeks from, or like more like 1 week from Assault Synchron until Euros, and then like 2 weeks until American Continentals. So I don't know whether Assault Synchron. There might be a couple of crackheads which immediately come up with something really cool, but those guys will be cooking non-stop. I can tell you that is needed for this. But we said that this basically is a deck that struggles so much versus Kashtira, and it doesn't feel good to bring a deck into a tournament that just hardcore struggles Kashtira. So I want to skip the one deck for now and want to talk about another deck that also loses very hard to Kashtira, first of all, and that is Telements. Telements still, I think you personally, again at German Nationals, also slaughtered some Telements players, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My heart is legit bleeding when I gotta say I get to put this deck into Rogue. My heart is legit bleeding, but
It does feel like that for sure.
I cannot deny it. I played against a Kashtira player. He had to mill 30 cards till he had like a semi-good board. I mean, that shows he was quite unlucky with his mills, but it is just like you are having Sharon in your hand or having Merly in your hand, and normally you are thinking like, nice, I got a good starter cut. But now you gotta think, wow, why should I go in with like Mudora pitch Agido to mill if I'm having 1 or 2 names in my hand because I'm not going to hit?
Yep. It's so rough that they're limited, right? That is so rough.
So it's just crazy that if you're having like 1 name in hand, your hand is probably just becoming worse.
Yeah.
Your hand is becoming worse by having names in your hand. It's crazy.
That seems crazy indeed. So I want to put it in front of Pearly, right? So like still a better rogue deck, but it's struggling for sure.
Bro, I gotta say, my tier limits experience was so easy for me. I cannot put a deck where people are playing Shifter, Bestials in every deck. I cannot put this deck at like one of the front places of Rogue. I think I would put this maybe in a region with Flanders.
Yeah, okay. I will put it just in front of Flanders. But I like how you're immediately taking over, saying no, I can't make this. I can't make this because you are the one coming into this format. But you're immediately being the powerful man you are, saying no, we can't make this happen. I love it. So everyone in the comments, please let me know how you liked Philip's appearance here on the tier list discussion. I think we are going to do that very regularly, so definitely make sure to give us some input on that. Next deck up the line, the deck that was probably hit the most alongside Pearly by the last Forbidden Unlimited list is going to be Super Heavy Samurai. And yeah, that hit was super heavy, and I have a friend which made top 128 with pure Super Heavy Samurai at German Nationals.
Was it Nico?
It is Nico, yes, indeed.
Shoutouts to Nico.
Shoutouts to Nico for sure. But honestly, we earlier on had like the discussion that Runic Life Twin Sprite is just better than regular Runic, just better than regular Life Twin Sprite. And with Super Heavy Samurai, I gotta say, there are just better combo decks than Super Heavy Samurai in the room right now. Like, for me personally, I even think the Synchro piles, the Monadium piles, are better than Super Heavy Samurai because they are doing a better job at putting up a big negate board. And Super Heavy Samurai is just not going to be it. And Super Heavy Samurai also struggles so hard versus Shifter. It's insane.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I did think about how to make this deck somehow work, and I know there are some variants of Super Heavy which do still make crazy boards with like the Karakuris and so, but they look a lot more fragile than they were before. Everyone who played the Super Heavy deck at, now you gotta say full power, even though it wasn't long, the deck was like, it was super hard to like hand trap and so, because we are so early going for Baron. And I'll be honest with you, I would put this deck maybe above Striker.
Oh gosh. I was about to put it in the middle of Rogue, but yeah, it's true. It's like in the neighborhood of Striker for sure.
I think it's better than Striker because you can cook some combos, but I don't believe it's better than Striker. And I even think like Scarecrow is maybe even a lot better than Super Heavy because it has some things going for it, but I don't feel like Super Heavy has it.
Yeah, like I think, and Jesse Cotton very early on said that this is probably going to be an engine at some point, which is going to be used in some top deck. And I think at Denmark Nationals, there already was some innovation playing like Bestial Super Heavy Samurai, which looked interesting and maybe promising. Maybe we see some people cooking up something in that direction for Continentals. But I think as a pure deck, it's just not it anymore. And we're already talking for quite a while, so let's move on to the last two decks. First of all, we have Trap Tricks, and that is another case of why are you playing this trap deck when there is a better trap deck in the room. And Labyrinth, by no discussion, is worse than Trap Tricks, and therefore Trap Tricks is just going to be the less promising trap deck of the format. The question is just, how promising is it? Are you still going to have a good time piloting Trap Tricks in nowadays metagame?
So there are legit only two reasons why you could play Trap Tricks. One of them being the budget reason, which we are not accounting here because we are talking about the best decks. The other reason is because you are just believing all your opponents will have to start with Special Unicorn and not having any bot breaker to stop you from Floodgate trap holding them. And then they are not able to continue playing. That's the only reason why you could say, well, I'm a Trap Tricks player because I think the deck is good.
Yeah, but I think we can make it short. Do we put it... I want to put it behind Gold Pride Punk even in the Rogue category. Is that fine with you?
That's by far too high for me. I'm honest with you. For the sake of your heart, you could even put it behind Striker.
No. I mean, it topped German Nationals at the end of the day.
Okay, then probably... I'll be honest with you, I don't see a reason why I would play Trap Tricks. Okay. I don't know how he topped with it. But
I like how Empen is raising his hands towards Sarah. So we're putting it in front of Luanderies. It's just, it looks nice. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's okay with me. And yeah, I would like to talk a bit more about the last deck because I think the last one we have is actually very interesting.
It's maybe the most interesting of the entire list because it's like the newest deck type. Yeah. And also the one where maybe innovation is like the most possible. I think all of the other decks are somewhat soft, not 100%, but somewhat. And Vanquish Soul is like, yes, there are successful Vanquish Souls lists at the moment, and they look very similar. But we talked about that personally already. It just doesn't feel like this is the perfect approach to the deck just yet.
So the thing is, I think this is like the reason why we have a high potential category on the board. It is for me definitely the deck with the most potential. I would put it at the front of high potential.
Same.
The reason being, we were seeing people already performing quite well with it. I think Luke Todd is also a German content creator, started 6-0 with it. Then got a bit maybe unlucky, maybe it didn't work out in the end. It doesn't matter. It showed the deck can perform well, and we saw the innovation of the DPE engine.
Oh yeah,
being now in the Vanquish deck, something we didn't see in the OCG. And the thing which Vanquish has going for it is that the cards don't lock you out of anything.
Yeah, that's cool.
The only thing you really need is your normal summon and the effect of your normal summon. So maybe no Brave shenanigans. I'm sorry for those of you who like thought just throw in Brave. But but that has a lot of room for innovation. I don't know if it is now the time for it to like go completely in a new direction with being different. But like the attributes also are not that bad. I think fire attribute is hard to get, but just let the deck like get some like a good earth or a good dark engine in it, because we already see the Fenrir being played, which is like a perfect fit for the deck. Being able to search either a good earth or a fire target, then you have access to your rank 7 toolbox. You can banish the one-offs of your opponent's deck. This all sounds quite interesting to me. I don't know if it is time now, but probably we will see at Euros.
Yeah, this is like the biggest surprise deck of the format. I think it's definitely still a deck where people don't know how to play against it. That's also a big upside for the deck. So I think if a good player decides to play this deck, like seriously, I can see 2 names playing Vanquished Souls at Euros. I have no information whether they will do so, but like if, for example, Dinka Bui, because he doesn't play a deck for 2 events in a row, plays this, or maybe Joshua Schmidt, who also picked up the core, as we all know, if one of them plays Vanquished Souls, I can see Vanquished Souls going super deep into the tournament, like seriously.
I'll tell you, this is a deck for me which with it you can win an event, even a big event,
for sure,
because like the deck has so much you can do. You can innovate on it. No one really knows already how to play against, because also the deck is quite expensive, so there are not a lot of times you will see this deck at locals right now.
Absolutely.
So people gotta specifically test against it, and the question is, are you specifically testing against Vanquish Soul if you're expecting like to maybe only see Kishira, Runic Twinsplit, and Labyrinth? Why are you then testing against Vanquish Soul specifically? You don't want to invest a lot of your time into it.
Yeah.
And then it's just hard to like, because the deck has a lot of grind that it can make value out of like one single card a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was the last deck on our list. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed what we did here. I hope you enjoyed the podcast style, very long tier list discussion we had here. This is your final tier list for the upcoming Continentals, for Euros and the North American Continentals. Definitely make sure to let us know in the comments how you like the format, how you agree on our decisions, whether you want us to be it longer or shorter. It's your decision. We're working together with you. Of course, we are all a community. Philip, thank you so much for participating in this. I think that was very, very insightful. You are a great Yu-Gi-Oh mind, and you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh in a very, very fascinating way. And I think listening to you definitely improves people at playing Yu-Gi-Oh, at building decks, and therefore that is the whole purpose of this video, to educate people and to make people smarter as they were before watching the video. So once again, thank you for that. Like and subscribe the video. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel, because we are doing more of this. I can already promise you. Yes, I know there were some formats where I did not continue on here on YouTube, but this is definitely one that I want to continue. So see you very soon for more.